Hi everyone, Ken Rakowski. This is our Let's Hang Out. This is Metal Connect, where we take one of the great speakers from one of the Saturdays and we share time with them to find out what they're doing and how we can learn from them. Jeff Hoffman is someone who I'm extremely excited to spend time with. Besides creating some incredible businesses and artists and movies, he finds time to do philanthropic things and create great people. He is joining us from the center of Florida, from Orlando, and it's great to have you here. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Ken, thank you so much for having me back.
No, well, you made time for us, so thank you. So I know it's late where you're at, but hey, I want to first dive into this. Britney Spears?
Yeah, we did a tour, but can I back up and tell you why?
Please.
So I was at long ago, one night I was at well, there's two reasons. First of all, one was I got this crazy idea that the best way to look back at your life and say, man, what an epic life, is to actually decide what an epic life would be for you and then try to have that. So luckily I thought about that early on, and epic is meaningful only to each individual person, right? Everybody's definition. And I'm just going to tell you real quick where I got that. Was my best friend, Michael. My best friend, Michael, used to climb. He was a climber. He climbed cliffs and mountains. And he decided one day to set these records for something called free solo, climbing a sheer 600-foot cliff with no safety equipment or ropes or whatever, like Spider-Man. But he was the human Spider-Man. He was the Michael Jordan of climbing. Don't worry, he never fell off a cliff. And he would go do this on weekends. And I would say to him, he'd say, I'm going climbing this weekend, Jeff. And I would say, could you maybe not? And he'd say, why not? And I said, honestly, I'm too busy for a funeral this weekend. And this was our running joke. And one day, Ken, I grabbed Michael by both shoulders and I said, seriously, I said, please stop doing this. When are you going to quit? Because I really am worried about losing my best friend. He was the kind of friend that we'd hang up the phone at night. He'd call me right back. I'd say, Michael, we just spoke. And he'd say, yes, but I forgot to tell you I love you, right? Men don't do that enough, even though they should. He never left a call without making sure I knew at the end of that day that he loved me and vice versa. So anyway, one day I grabbed him by the shoulders and I said, stop. And you know what he said to me? He said, Jeff, you're right. I might fall. And he said, I might. There is a chance I would die young. He said, but I'll tell you what. He said, I'll take 40 years of living the way I'm doing it versus 90 of the way most people do it. And I looked into his eyes, Ken, and I was like, oh my God, he's serious. If you offered Michael a deal, 40 years but live them, or 90 years and not really get around to the things you wanted to do, he said, I'll take the 40. At 42 years old, he drowned in the Irish Sea in a freak accident. And I redefined my definition of success. We are raised to believe that success is a combination of money, fame, or power. When someone's rich, we say, wow, he made it. When someone's famous, we say, wow, she made it. And in fact, I have billionaire friends who are miserable and very famous friends who are miserable, right? We have the Kate Spades and the Anthony Bourdains and Robin Williams, people commit suicide. And so what I realized was my new definition of success, and I swear that I'm going to come back to the actual question. My new definition of success is anybody you meet that can look back at the whole of their life at that moment, that they can turn around and look back and say, man, what a ride. With every mistake I've made, every bad decision I've made, I wouldn't trade my life for anybody else's. I don't want to be someone else. I want to be me. That is success. You might be broke, you might be rich, you might be unknown, and you might be famous. It doesn't matter. What matters is your life the one you wanted, and you can look back and say, this was a great ride and I wouldn't trade it with anyone else, mistakes or all, because that was what I learned from Michael. And so that being said, I asked myself, what's going to be on my list? What is a list of things that I want to look back one day and say, man, I spent my time on this planet well? And one of them is music is a huge passion for me. And one night when I was having a bad night, I went to a concert. And when I went into the concert, it was a bad time in the economy and in the world. And people were a little crabby and grumpy going in. And there were people of every shape, size, and color. And then the music started. And then everybody was on their feet. And then the artist asked everybody to hold hands. And then there was no color, there was no age, there was no gender, there were no troubles in the world. We were all just singing right? Music, the universal language. We were in the moment, and it like healed everybody for that moment. And everybody walked out smiling and laughing at people they were glaring at when they came in. And I said, okay, I want to do that. I want to deliver the healing power and uniting power of music to some people. And so that's why I decided to go start a music company, because I said, if I go my whole life and never give my, you don't fear failure, you fear apathy. I don't want to, I don't mind failing, but what I mind is going to every concert the rest of my life and wondering if that could have been me up there. And so just give it a shot. Give yourself a chance to fail is the only way you're giving yourself a chance to succeed. So I started a music company, and all my friends are like, dude, you're a software engineer. You're a tech guy. You're not a music guy. I said, I'm not going to be singing. I'm not writing the music, and I'm definitely not dancing, but I'm going to be the business person that puts together concerts and tours, because that's the kind of stuff I know how to do, promotions, production, operations. So we did. And I put a company together at the disdain of all my tech friends. And then, I'm going to skip 80 million hours of hard work in between. But next thing I know, I was, we did a tour with Britney Spears, and I was on the tour bus with her. We did a tour with NSYNC and Justin Timberlake, and I was doing charity shows with Elton. And, all of that wound up that I gave myself a shot to succeed because I gave myself permission to fail. And when I tried the music company, I'll just tell you, it was a blast, needless to say. The end was pretty transformative to me, and we might be skipping ahead. But at the end, we love jazz, and we felt like jazz doesn't get the respect it deserves. So we produced our own jazz album in the studio. And I did the business side of the production, and my friend did the music side of the production. And we went to the studio and we produced a jazz album, and we released it, thinking that no one on the planet would ever hear it, but it was okay because we did it out of love for the music. And then we won a Grammy that year. We won the Grammy for Best Jazz Album. And the irony of the story is, one day we're in the studio and the guys are like, hey, Jeff, you're never gonna get your money back. I financed this production. And I said, it's okay, I'm not expecting to. I'm doing this because to show love for music and show respect. And I said, but I'll tell you what, let's just do this like we were trying to win a Grammy, because you should do everything in life that way. Why do anything if you're not actually going to do it that way? So the irony was, we all gather in Hollywood the night before the Grammys and remembered that moment. Remember the moment we half jokingly said, let's produce this thing like we're trying to win a Grammy? So on the Grammy red carpet, we won. We got nominated, we won. I was standing there in a daze. Somebody said to me, the paparazzi, they're like, how do you feel right now? And Ken, I said, this is the dream of software engineers everywhere. And everybody's like, what? The red carpet people with the little headphones are like yelling at me, dude, you're killing the vibe here, move along. I see somebody ask the name of the album. It's about the role of percussion in jazz, and it's called The Offense of the Drum. And that's the album we won the Grammy for. But I was standing there, and I'll end it with this, on the red carpet my feet weren't touching the ground. I was floating. I never had a goal of winning a Grammy. But at that moment, it was so surreal that I was standing on the red carpet, and I asked myself this: through what sequence of luck and events and opportunity, whatever, what sequence of events possibly ever led me to be lucky enough, blessed enough, that I'm standing right here and this is actually my life? How is this actually happening to me, and how did I get this blessed? And so the moment I felt that, I thought to myself, it was something that transformed me. I said, you know what? I know what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life. I want every human being deserves a chance to have their own red carpet moment. Every human being should have a chance at a life that at least one time they look around them and say, I can't believe this is actually my life. So that gave me kind of a guiding star, a North Star, to say, you should make sure that you focus the rest of your life on helping other people feel the way you felt at that moment. Whatever your red carpet moment would be, whatever moment would get you to say, I can't believe this is my life and that I'm this blessed to be here, I just want to help people get there. So that's why I got into music, but it gave something way bigger back to me than I gave to it.
Hey guys, do me a favor. Inside the chat, put your red carpet moment. I like hearing that. That's a great, great title right there. Everybody in the chat, please put your red carpet moment, even if you have a white beard. Please put your red carpet moment in there. Okay. Jeff, why'd you stop music?
What?
Why'd you stop the whole music thing?
We didn't stop. We just decided that on my list. So, Ken, I have to tell you, I would write these things down. And so the question is, and I would love to see some of these from people too. The question is, if you had to name one thing in your life that would make you, just one of the things that you'll look back and say, man, what a ride, what an epic life, your version, right? I'm glad my life went the way it was. What is one of those things? And so music, creating music, delivering music was one of mine. Traveling the world was one of mine. Although you've been to more countries than anybody I've ever met. I'm starting to think you're on the run from the law or something, but that's a different story.
I did 4 countries in one day, just to let you know. Okay, just so you know.
That is pretty nuts. So I used to write, when I started talking to people about their version of an epic life, let me tell you what people say, Ken. They roll their eyes. They say, Jeff, I had dreams when I was younger, but now I have a mortgage and I have a family and I have responsibilities. And they would say to me, at some point you have to grow up. And I would say to them, is that growing up, Ken, or is that just giving up, right? When did you accept that the life you want to live and your responsibilities as an adult are mutually exclusive? And so one day I started saying, your career should be the vehicle that takes you to an epic life, not the obstacle that prevents you from one. So therefore, you need to take ownership of your career and design the one you want. So I started thinking about what I started doing was writing down my next epic dream and a white index card, and I put them on my bathroom mirror. And I put them on my bathroom mirror because when I was asking people, it doesn't matter how old you are, there's still one more thing at least that you still want to do that would be epic for you personally. Doesn't have to be for anyone else. And what I noticed was people didn't want to hear about it and they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to be reminded of the stuff that every year they said they were going to do next year and they knew they weren't. So I wrote mine down. I challenge people to do this on a white index card and I stuck it on the bathroom mirror. And I love it when people send me a picture of a card on their bathroom mirror now. You know why I do that? Because at the end of every day, where do you end up? On your bathroom, brushing your teeth. And I look at that card and I say to myself, Jeff, did you do anything today to have the life you want to have instead of the one you currently have? And every morning, I start the day brushing my teeth and I said to myself, what are you going to do today to steer your life towards the life you're going to look back at one day and say, wow, glad I had my life the way I had it. And if it's on the mirror, I see it every day when I start and end the day. And the other thing about the bathroom mirror is how many more days are you going to look yourself right in the eyes and lie? So I'd look in the mirror and I would say to myself, come on, something's got to change, right? If this card is going to come true. My first one was visit 50 countries before I die. I'm not at your number. I'm at 97. You're at 140. But that was on there. So Deliver the Gift of Music was up there. And when we succeeded at that and the tours went well and I was able to do, like Elton John and I did charity concerts where we sold out the whole arena and then gave all the money basically to children's causes. And we were able to do some good while delivering music. And then one of the other ones of mine was the medium of film. I said, you know, it'd be really cool. I'd love to make a movie someday. I'll just try it. Again, if I fail and it doesn't work, I'm okay with that. But I don't want to spend every time I ever see a movie the rest of my life wondering if I could have made one. So the reason we stopped music was because I started the film company then, a production company. And even though the first thing we did was just a bloody horror flick, that's because my friend that went to film school, which I did not, his name is Eli Roth. Eli had never made a movie and I'd never made a movie. But Eli liked to write scary movies. And he was a creative guy and I was the business guy. So we did that first movie and I wanted to understand the experience. It's like a startup, but in a shorter time frame, right? From vision to storytelling, right? To production and financing, to creating, then to marketing and promoting. So it's this microcosm of a startup, this movie, from birth to death, right? That you create this vision and the day you get to sit in the theater and, you know, the curtains open and you watch your vision actually come to life, it was just a really cool process. And again, even though we did a scary movie, I also wanted to do it responsibly as a business, and horror was a good genre for us. And so we wrote, shot, directed, produced, I financed, we're all in that first movie. And again, all my friends were like, what are you doing, tech guy, software guy? I said, I'm just taking the best shot at living the best life I can, so I can look back and say, hey man, I used my time well. I will fail, I'm okay with that, but at least I will have tried. And so when people said, how'd your little movie go? Well, it's not a good movie. It's still on Netflix. It's called Cabin Fever. It's still on Hulu and all those things now because it's about a virus. And so it's getting a lot of views right now. But the flip side is everybody in sarcasm said, how'd your little movie work out? Well, I did it the way we do everything, right? I gave it my best. We went all out and we were able to get it in 3,000 theaters in the US, and I sold it in 47 countries, and we made it for 1.3 million bucks, and it grossed like $100 million. And people said, how'd your little movie go? And you know what I said, Ken? I just said, it was fine. I actually didn't even want to tell people because I felt kind of bad that we worked really hard and actually achieved our goal. But that's what happened. I wanted to learn the process of filmmaking, and the best way to do that is to make one.
So can we real quick, can we go look at and celebrate some of these red carpet moments of some of the people in the chat real quick?
Yeah, please.
Let's look what we got here. We got Mike, let's see, good news only. He won a Grammy. We have Harry, who got an Oscar. We have Brad, 4 TV shows on the air at once. That's pretty damn good.
That is.
Got another Oscar. God, we got a lot of Oscars. Who's this surf guy? Oh, we got the Presidential Medal of Honor. Big deal. Yeah. Damn,
okay, Vin.
Do you have a microphone? Do you have a microphone there so you can just drop it?
Well, you know, I was listening to Jeff, which I love to do. I could listen to Jeff for hours. But the thing that was cognitive, dissonance for me is that's not, it wasn't, I was never driven by what's my epic thing or, the red carpet thing at all. I was just driven by something I wanted to get done. And I have the feeling that a lot of the people who are putting this thing up here are doing it because they just want it to work, as opposed to I want visibility for it or red carpet thing. And so I was going to arm wrestle a little bit about that.
No, I'm so glad you said that, because I think you're helping me clarify something really important. What I discovered was that one of those creates the other. What I started with just getting things done. My first product ever, as I mentioned, I think last time, was when I missed a flight standing in the airport for an hour. And I said, this is broken. There has to be a better way to check in. And I went home and designed a kiosk and got a patent on the back end and sold them in every airport in the world, those check-in kiosks. And the point was that the getting something done and solving a real problem in the world, right? I have this incurable impatience. I'm always that guy in line that people are saying, shut up, man, it just takes this long. And my answer is, it takes this long because you're just passively accepting that it takes this long. And they're like, just shut up. And I was like, you know what? I'll see you guys go home. I'm going to stay here till this is fixed. My whole business side of my career was defined by fixing problems that a lot of people had. But what I discovered was solving big problems enables the other part. And so I didn't realize that that's what I was trying to say, instead of accepting that it's one or the other, right? You can get things done. And then if you have time later in your life or on the weekend, you can go do something you want, or you can use your get things done skills to design your future. So I think you've made a really good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't want that to be misleading. I never planned, just like you said, I never planned, I didn't care about winning a Grammy. I cared about figuring a way to deliver music, right? We cared about a way to make travel more efficient. We cared about a way to reduce lines in airports.
Really
but those enabled me to go to places I never dreamed of.
Something's really important. And you keep on referring back to it. It goes software engineer, software engineer. That sets formulas. So there's a pattern I'm an old software designer and a coder myself. So I know I have to make certain things happen so it has the right outcome. So there's a pattern. When you did the movie, you had a flow. When you produced your artist, you had a flow. So you are always looking at something in a systematic format, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, very much so. I think that that is I remember as a 20-something-year-old CEO building those airport kiosks, and we ran into an engineering problem. We ran into a problem, not an engineering problem, just a business problem. And my employees came in and said, boss, we don't know what to do. And I was like, you're asking me? I'm probably the stupidest person at this company. And they're like, yeah, well, it's your company. It's your problem. And I said, well, I don't know what to do. That's why I hired you guys. And they said, well, we don't know it either. And it was just dead silence in the room. So I went up to the board and I said, somebody write down what the problem is we're trying to solve. And they wrote it on the board. And I said, do me a favor. Can you break that into smaller problems? And we talked for a while and it wound up being broken into 4 separate smaller problems. And I said, can you do that again? And each of those 4, we broke down into 3 more. Yeah. And I said, can you do it again? And they said, no. And I said, all right, we're going to assign 12 people each one of the sub problems. And then you come back into your subgroup and roll your answer up. And we were done. We solved it. And they said, how did you know to do that? I said, I didn't. That's just what my engineering teacher made me do every time I was stuck.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah.
Complicated.
Yeah, that's called divide and conquer. And we all know that's the way you solve computer problems. But I now that I've grabbed the microphone, I just got to tell you one other very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are the perfect example of the discontented man. And I sing praises of discontent because if there isn't any discontent, no progress gets made. You have to be a little unhappy with the status quo, maybe a lot unhappy. And it's not that I think everybody should be discontented all the time, but discontent is what drives solutions to problems. And that's you, the discontented man.
I will completely accept that title because most of my journey started with saying, this is not okay, and everybody telling me just to accept it. Like I was telling you in the airport when I was complaining about the line and people were saying, what's your problem? And I was like, how is this not your problem? How is this not everybody's problem? You guys are okay with this? And people were mad that I was mad. And I said, you know what? Fine, I'll just find a better way. I'll just fix this. You guys can stand here. I'll go fix it. So I believe that you are correct. In fact, we named our original nonprofit to help social entrepreneurs, the Unreasonable Group, after the George Bernard Shaw quote, right? About unreasonable people are the ones that make all the change in the world. So fully agree with you, and I appreciate that very much. And thank you again, Vint, for clarifying. My goal was always to fix things and make them better. The result was one day it occurred to me that I could have a really cool life because those skills, right? Entrepreneurship was never my job, it was my tool set. And it was the tool set that let me engineer my own life the same way I was engineering other solutions. And I was like, wait, this is a good formula, right? What is something I want to do next? Because if I go out and earn it and design it and apply these skills, I can probably wind up in a place that I actually want to be while getting something done in the process. That's why I said I found out they weren't mutually exclusive anymore. Do something you like doing, but do something that actually works, right? That actually makes something better in the world. That turns out to be a really cool formula.
Jeff, I want to use some of your expertise real quick because we have a cluster of people in metal that are in both industries that you touched upon, music and content being movies. And there's one guy right here, and that's AJ. AJ's band's called Saint Motel. And just to give you an idea how big Saint Motel's doing is they're opening for Imagine Dragons and other big bands. So they're the next big band, okay? So great band, Saint Motel. There's AJ. Hey, AJ. Where are you, AJ? That looks awesome.
Just in the courtyard. Sorry, I was just watering the plants while listening. Oh, no, it was very therapeutic.
So what would your advice be to somebody like AJ in the music industry, and how can you use your coder brain to take him to another level?
I don't know if this is the coder side. I think this is more the other side, which is all about brand. I'm a huge believer and spent a lot of my life studying brand and brand shaping. And I think that is a really important piece, especially in the music industry, because it's so hard to stand out. And, you know, a brand is something that you are defining, you know, what your brand promise. What is the experience that I'm going to get with you? What is the emotion I'm going to walk away with? And brand, when you determine a brand promise, you also then align with a specific audience. You can grow it over time. But I think a big part of brand is certain brands appeal to certain people, and you just have to accept that, right? Patagonia was a brand not for people who don't go outside. So they don't worry about people that don't live an outdoor life when they started their company. They were about the active life. the same thing I've seen so much in music. One of my best friends, in fact, we're filming next week. I mentioned that to you last time, is Pitbull. And Pitbull's a guy, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but the first time I was with him and he said, "Are you staying for the concert?" I said, "Isn't it just the same song 14 times?" Well, I never lived that down. He said, "It's not the same song 14 times. It's called a style." I said, "Dude, I was just kidding." And he's like, "Why do you think?" He got all offended. But what I said was, you created a brand, right? His Mr. Worldwide brand, his musical style. He knows who likes him. He knows who he's singing for, and he knows who he's not, and he doesn't worry about those. But he's very carefully crafted a brand by saying, who do I appeal to? What is the product they want? How do I deliver that product? How do I continue to evolve that product? We have a lot of conversations about the brand, not just about the music, about understanding what is the emotional response you want people to have to you and to your music. And
He's
what's
also
your
got great taste in music because he sampled one of our songs. So when you see him, tell him,
Oh, he
thank
did?
you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He sampled My Type.
Oh,
I
that's
think
so
he called
cool.
the song The Roof or something like that. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, but
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, so
AJ and Jeff, that's why I wanted that conversation. AJ's band will literally be one of the top bands in the next couple of years. And they're doing things that are very radical. Like they're doing a VR experience. They're doing augmented reality. They're taking all the next level of technology and applying it. But is that gimmicky or is that part of their brand? And then how do you keep on going further?
So I'm so glad you asked that. I'll take a second. I'm keeping an eye on the chat because there's some amazing people and amazing stuff there. I will give you a quick answer to that because I'm headed next to Miami and we are actually filming. So it's the 75th anniversary of the United Nations and we are sponsoring. I spend more of my time these days with youth than anything else, right? Trying to prepare the next generation to do a better job than we did. Part of what we're doing is the 75th anniversary of the UN is next month. It starts next month and runs through October. And we got the Secretary General's permission to do a global youth takeover of the UN on UN Day. So for a moment in time, we're gonna have kids from all over the world, since it's virtual, are going to take over the UN for a period of time. And so the best way to do that, we're doing that whole thing in VR and XR. And we're working with Oculus and Apple and HTC and everybody, we all came together. And so we're gonna record a concert. Obviously it's Pitbull since that's my business partner, but we're gonna do a VR and XR song and we're gonna have kids join us on stage from all over the world for this performance at the UN. So I don't think it's gimmicky. I think it's the way that this generation consumes entertainment. And they want a deeper and more emotionally attached involvement than if you can't be there in person right now, but even if you can, not everybody can come to a physical concert if there was no COVID, but people all over the world can be with AJ on stage in the middle of the music using these technologies. So we are big believers in the intersection of experience technology and the arts. We want more people to get deeper into the arts and like them even more because we bring them closer to the artist and to the sound with tech. So we're actually filming VR next week.
What do you think
So
about that?
AJ, I love that.
Thank you for everything you've said. I couldn't agree more. I think brand is so important to an artist and to kind of what you're representing because, your music takes the audience somewhere and where do you want to take them? That's kind of something you have to figure out.
That's exactly what I meant by brand. You're taking me on a journey. Well, you need to know what the journey is and you need to know who wants to go on that journey, which is why I secretly thought I might be able to pull off the music company because despite what people in the music industry said, Jeff, you're an engineer, not a music person. I was like, well, I am a business person and I'm pretty sure the principles of entrepreneurship, define your product, define your audience, right? Hire talent in the middle to create the best product, figure out how to promote it, figure out how to finance it. How is it different because it's a song than if it's a kiosk? I didn't accept that. So we just said, let's apply the principles of entrepreneurship to everything that we do. And so you're absolutely right. That is the brand journey and the brand promise is the same for a band as it is for a product.
Last week we had Dee Snyder on from Twisted Sister, and he was so irate about platforms like Spotify not compensating artists properly. And he feels that the artists of today are getting gouged by the platforms. And he actually thought it's a bad time to be an artist. Where someone like AJ, it looks like he's just getting all excited about grabbing all this technology and running with it. So there's got to be a mindset change between old school and new school,
You know,
right?
yes, and I don't mean this offensively to D at all, but I have one word for him, which is evolve. The world changed. Stop looking in the rearview mirror. Evolve. It is time. This next generation has no interest in the old way of consuming entertainment or information even, right? They don't want even our way of learning. They want a fully, five senses engaged, much deeper experiential learning process than we grew up with. We're not going to go back to the way it was.
He's not going to take it, Jeff.
That's funny.
He's not. Okay, so now let's make a switch. AJ, thank you so much. Let's talk about the movie industry. We have tons of people in the content space, being big screen, TV, and interactive. Where do you think that push is going? What excites you in that space, Jeff?
Convergence is what excites me into that space. The blurred line, I guess we use the word transmedia. I've been spending a lot of time in that space. The blurred line between music, film, television, video game, the blurred line between television, laptop, tablet, and phone, right? The way that we're consuming entertainment, and then the way that we're being brought into entertainment is changing pretty dramatically too. We are much more part of the story with all these different content channels. And the fact, probably my favorite trend though, isn't even any of those, but convergence and transmedia is a big one. Those lines are blurring between what's a song. By the way, I was reading a book on my phone, and in the book, when I read this line, the book said the person actually got out of his car by the ocean. And then I heard waves. And I was like, wait, I'm reading a book. Where am I? I looked out my car window. I was like, what's going on? The book, I did not realize this because I didn't buy an audiobook. I was reading it, but the book was fully audio. Whatever was going on in the scene, it was playing in my ear, right? And I was like, actually, I don't hate that. I like to still read books because I want to work my imagination and exercise it. I don't want you to tell me everything. But I didn't hate that some of the things enhanced my experience. So transmedia is one, but what excites me the most is, what did we call this originally? User UCC? Wasn't that it originally, Vint? User created content? It is the fact that there is this massive wealth of intelligence and creativity that was shut out by a big giant door. Let's call it Hollywood in that case. You're not in our industry, so we're not interested in your ideas. You can't get in our industry, right? And the only people that can create are the creatives in Hollywood. And while I completely respect and believe in the need for professionals, I didn't have amateurs when we made a movie. I hired people from the industry. But the ability for us to crowdsource creativity and harness the power of a lot of smart people, that is why something like TikTok took off, because a lot of people created their creative career because they actually had talent, and they wound up being absorbed up into the more traditional industry because they had a platform to develop and show their talent. So I guess one of the things that excites me is that we have more platforms to allow more people an open door to show their talent. They may join existing professional teams, but there never used to be a door into these creative industries like Hollywood, and now you can't stop people. The fact that who would have ever predicted Amazon would be a movie production company, or Netflix that would be doing, or now Facebook says they want to make movies and TV. None of those people were people we ever thought were going to be in the content business. So what I like is there's going to be more opportunities for more creative people to be in the industry. But I'm still a big believer in the best entertainment is going to be created by people who actually know what they're doing, right? Professionals, but they just have more access to teams.
So let's go after this concept. I like looking at this idea of Rome at its height. And most people don't realize it wasn't all roads lead to Rome. It was all water leads to Rome because they created the aqueduct system and then they built roads. And that was the center of the world was Rome. And then it switched to Constantinople and then it was London, or was Paris, then London, then let's say New York. And I would say for a period of time, it was San Francisco and then Los Angeles. I don't think LA is the center of the world anymore. I think things are changing. Where do you think the next new Rome is going to be?
Boy, not only do I agree with that, but that's true in a broader sense. Last year, was it 19 or 18? For the we fund the Startup Genome Report, and for the first time ever, Silicon Valley did not come in first. Singapore did, as the study for where the most talent is. So already, and we saw cities like London climb the charts, and other cities, Shanghai and Beijing, weren't even in the top 20. And now those are rising as creative, talented cities where are great places to create startups. So I think that the democracy of information, i.e. the internet, right? What happened was information got democratized to a degree it never was before when you had the internet. Think about even things like Coursera as an example. Just access to, or TED, access to other people's intelligence in a way that anybody anywhere in the world can absorb it, and they didn't have that opportunity before. So the centers, one of the first things I learned when I did my, I can't remember if I shared this last time, but I wanted to take a year off to give back, and I did a year of yes. I think I told you that I didn't tell anybody. I said for 1 year, I'm gonna just say yes to anybody that asks me for help for a year and see what happens. I won't make a dime, I won't do any business, I won't go to my office, and I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow. I'm just gonna say yes to anybody I can help in the world for a year. This was 2012. And during that time, I just have to share this, the second call I got, I had done a TED talk called The Power of Childlike Wonder. And somebody through the TED site emailed me, and it was a kid in West Africa, 19 years old. And he sent an email, here's what it said. It said, "Dear Mr. Hoffman, I know you won't read my email, and if I do, I know you'll never respond." And I was like, oh, it's on now, okay? So it was my year of yes. I didn't tell anyone I was doing that. I wrote back to the kid, said, "What's up?" He said, "Life is hard in the villages, but I got ideas, man. I got all these great ideas, and I have no idea, no resources. I have no idea how to start." Well, I had given a speech at Stanford the week before, out in Silicon Valley, and then I hopped a plane because my commitment was yes, and I flew to Senegal. And I went to the village to meet this kid, and I sat there in the dirt. They had no electricity, no water. His house was made out of packed mud, and my jaw hit the floor. And you know why? Because it's one of the smartest kids I've ever met in my life in a dirt village in Africa. And I was like, oh my God, intelligence is equally spread all across the planet Earth. Opportunity is not. And so resource is not. You're not smarter because you live in Silicon Valley. You just have access. You have resources and you have opportunities. That kid's company today has I've been mentoring him ever since, 350 employees in 7 West African countries. The kid's brilliant. And so that made me realize that if we could continue to democratize information, expertise, and intelligence and get it to people, again, that's the beauty of the internet, that we could create resource and create opportunity for intelligence that's latent, but sitting in villages all over the world to come out and do something amazing.
So if you look at transportation throughout human evolution, anytime a new development in transportation came around, the wheel, the horse and buggy, ships, planes, trains, cars, humans changed. They changed the way they trade, they bought, they dated, everything changed. I think Zoom is teleportation. So it's a form of transportation because you could be anywhere and be somewhat present. Do you think this changes the way cities are and where we live? We see this exodus from New York. We're seeing it here in Los Angeles. Do you think we'll start to see people scattered and maybe all move to Utah or something like that?
Yeah, that's literally the talk I was giving on the news this morning. We're never, it's funny, we say the new normal, we're never going back to the old way. We never do anyway, right? No matter what time passes, we don't go backwards. But this version of the new normal was simply an accelerated version of where we were going anyway. COVID accelerated what we needed to do. People that had never used Zoom or had never experienced human communication and human connection and collaboration and virtual collaboration because they never had to before. They were doing it their way. It might have been because they were in a rut, but whatever it was, they were doing it the old way. They were forced by COVID to discover that human beings collaborate pretty well online, and they certainly do better with body language and facial contact like we're doing now than they do with just a phone. The phone kind of sucked. So I didn't like doing business that way either. I would get on a plane and go visit people, but this is a pretty good middle ground to be able to do things like Zoom, and it's going to get better. There are some things that I don't ever want to stop doing in person. There are still many times you need to be face to face with people, but I do not think we ever go back to work the way we knew it. I think we've discovered that not only can we work efficiently in a mode that lets people actually work around their lives, right? I've had so many CEOs tell me recently, we may, after this, go to 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. We've never done that before. And because they found out their employees were not only effective, sometimes they were more effective. Because when you're sitting at home, when you're in the office and that's where all your work is, and you go home at 5 or 6 o'clock, and then when the kids are in bed, you watch TV or whatever. But what they were saying is if all your work is home and your office is home and there's nothing else going on, a lot of people have told me that their productivity went up during this time. But I think that the other thing we discovered, I have talked to small business owners and entrepreneurs during COVID in about 110 countries now, like we're doing now, in live interactive Q&A. I didn't do that in the virtual and the physical world before. And so what we're discovering, like I did one earlier this week that I spoke to live to entrepreneurs in probably 50 of 54 African countries all at once. And we discussed issues and solutions. That is phenomenally powerful. So I think what we're discovering is suddenly the world is our talent pool, not just the people that live near our office. I think that is a major step forward for humanity to discover that we can actually collaborate with people we never even thought we could talk to before.
So let's go after a couple of questions. Harry, you got the first one, go for it.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Jeff and Vint, amazing stuff. I would love to see if we could get somebody like Elon Musk to wire your two brains together and see what happens. But there was a book by Clay Shirky called Here Comes Everybody. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. And I think he's onto something, and I have the feeling that's where the new paradigm is going to come from. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Why don't you elaborate what that is?
Here Comes Everybody. Make a long story short, the people would go home at night and play games, and you'd have a PhD playing with a 16-year-old kid because they had like interests, right? And so ideas were coming from these open-minded, forward-thinking people that were taking a new look at a problem that somebody else was trying to solve. And with the exponential technology that's happening, we're finding things are coming not from the colleges and the institutions and that kind of research, but we're seeing them come from unlikely places where these like-minded people are coming together. I think, Vint, you're familiar with the work of Clay Shirky. It seems like, because there's several other, there's deeper research there that I find fascinating. And
Clay is trying to get to the point of collaborative environments, and this is a tool we're using right now, as Jeff pointed out, as a means of collaboration. The internet was designed for purposes of collaboration originally. That was its primary motivation. I did have to laugh, though, when you said you thought that Clay was onto something, and I thought I had heard you say you thought Clay was on something.
That too.
That might be a fine line.
Yeah, you're right. Now, when you say new paradigm, now here I might not quite agree, because I think what's happening is that many of us have experienced this particular paradigm over a period of some decades. And so this is, I forget who was it that said that the future is here, but it's not uniformly distributed. That might have been, I don't remember. Anyway, I think that's probably correct. And so some of this has been going on for a while. It's still not perfect. And if you, like me, have spent the last 6 months almost staring at a screen and wishing that I were, in proximity, this is a little bit strange. I mean, if we were together in a room, we would not be staring at each other this way, not quite this way. And so it's not the same thing, and it's a little more intense. And I don't know whether you're finding yourselves tired at the end of the day, but I've noticed more exhaustion, I think, from spending hours in this kind of format.
Well, because you're in a suit all day and no one is around you.
Right. Well,
Hey,
no, I feel
Ken,
comfortable this way.
Ken, that's not a suit. Zoom now has a feature where you can put virtual clothing on
Oh
as
my
well.
God,
I don't know if you knew that.
So,
Hey, you've given away my whole secret. God, Jeff, you know, I'll get even with you somehow.
Hey, Ben, I completely agree. I am stir crazy for not having human interaction. We were designed for that, right? We need that, all of us, and I'd like some of that. But in the in the sort of interest of making the best, right? Lemonade from these lemons. I have been pretty thrilled that I've been able to talk to people all over the planet that I was not talking to before this, and that's a nice little benefit.
Have you noticed though that if people look away, when you're in person, people look away. They don't look at you all the time, and it isn't a big deal. You sense that they're still listening. When they look away in this format, you get the message, I'm not listening anymore. At least that's my reaction. Maybe nobody else has that same reaction, and it's a wrong reaction, but it's a weird one that is a side effect of this particular medium and the way in which it presents itself.
I agree, and this medium is so new for most of the population that people don't know how to take each other yet and don't know what to do. And there's all this etiquette. Think about when people turn their camera off. And some people are immensely offended by that. And I had somebody say, right, I was just taking notes and you were going to see the top of my head, so I just turned it off. They were actually, it was a compliment. The person was taking notes, but the other person got offended. There's so much for us all to learn about how to interact virtually.
I'm more interested in this whole idea of time management. So it's not that I disrespect you that I want to take a Zoom meeting. It's just because you're on the other side of town and we can get stuff done a lot faster now. So people that thought you would bend over backwards to see them, and now you're not seeing them in person, but you're utilizing Zoom, they do take offense. I've noticed this happen a lot, saying, let's just do a Zoom call. They would say, but you've always met with me in the past. Well, this is so much more convenient. I'm having this dilemma now, by the way. You're not my therapy class, but I'm hoping that helped you out there in that question. Harry, let's go over to, guys, there's some great questions here. Michael, and I had you turn on your camera. Thank you so much, Michael. Go for it, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, so hello everyone. I'm Michael Vespa. I'm working out in New York. I apologize. I just found out about this meeting like 10 minutes before I logged in, so I apologize about the background.
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I'm sure I missed some great stuff. Yeah, I heard you guys discussing some of the education topics, and that's something that I've been banging my head against the wall probably for the past 3 years. I own a company, New York Drones. We do drone services, and we also have a drone curriculum that is in a bunch of the public schools out here. And one of the things that I found really interesting was talking about how kids are going online remotely now, and that's something I've been working really closely. What's worked for me was using the drone as a way to get the kids excited. So it was like, it wasn't the kids come into class and they think, yeah, I'm going to be flying a drone today. That's the only thing they're thinking about. But in the back end, what they're really learning is the basics of coding, like Python and Scratch, and the very, very basic concepts about what is being used in the industry. But the kids that don't really pay attention, they think, well, I'm just flying a drone. And for me, like when I was in school, I wasn't the kid that was sitting in the front row paying attention. I was more of the kid that you had to use try different ways to get someone like me excited. So being able to find different tools, whether it's a drone or whether it's just using the words VR or, you know what I mean, using those different tools, or what's really, I've personally seen the kids that normally wouldn't get excited about that. So that's one thing that I found just interesting that I mentioned. And another thing is the remote learning. I mean,
I'm sorry, and I just wanted to reinforce something, if you don't mind. Dean Kamen started his first operation, which is about robotics, and there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of kids that are now involved in the program for exactly the same reason that you bring up for the drones. It's exciting, it's interesting, it's different.
yeah, exactly.
It's the new dinosaurs.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's and the funny part is the drones are it's I look at it as old school now. It's like that's kind of like, back in the day, even though it's
I'll
2 or
tell you,
3 years ago.
Michael, you got to check out one of our metal guys. His name is Marco Tempest, one of my closest friends. And Marco is doing some of the coolest stuff with drones. Marco Tempest, he has the dubious distinction of having 7 TED Talks, not TEDx, TED Talks. And he's doing some damn cool stuff with drones. And he's taking it to a whole new level. So the old school technologies around VR inside drones and AI. So go check that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. This is the first time I jumped on, so thank you
Okay.
guys.
Do you have a question, or is this just that was it?
I was just putting in my feedback. I mean, I guess one question, if it's not too off topic, it is my first time jumping on. I mean, if someone could just give me a brief overview of these types of calls and
We'll
what they're
talk
covering.
about that later. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay? Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank
much.
you.
All right, so let's go over to Chris. Chris, there you are. Come on, Chris.
Oh yeah, great. Well, I'm more like a progressive thinker, and I'm just the whole day I'm in communication with my people that are in the throes of propaganda, and I'm wondering how to sort that out. And let's say, especially your friend, the kid in Senegal, how is there a way to make sure, or is it internal in the internet, that he finds the right sources, that he finds MIT and not the terrorist group?
Well, I'm afraid we're out of time. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding because I didn't want to take that one. Vint looks like he wants to take that one.
I'd like to, but you may have some insight too, Jeff. First of all, at Google, we try very hard to help people get good quality information, but it's also true that when we go through the internet, we pull up a lot of other crap too, and we try to rank order that so that the crap doesn't show up very high up in the ranking. But the thing that's important for the kids is that they have confidence in their own judgment. And so we have to help them understand how to be confident about that. It's critical thinking as an example. And the thing that Michael was talking about, where kids learn to program, is important because that's a critical kind of thinking skill. It's breaking problems up, like Jeff was describing earlier. It's finding out how to solve them, figuring out how to put them back together, asking hard questions about where did this information come from? Is there any corroborating evidence? So thinking analytically is one of the things you learn when you learn how to program. So there are things that we can do to help the kids feel confident enough that they can in fact ask questions and reject or resist being overtaken by a piece of propaganda.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Thank you, thank you.
So I want to, real quick, I want to dive after this topic. So Peter Jennings was my mentor. So Peter Jennings taught me a lot about broadcasting, and I used to hang out with him. I apologize, guys, if I reiterated the story in the past. I just want to say it again. He took me after one of his newscasts outside. He was an insane smoker. Took me outside Times Square, and he says, just look outside. Just look outside. And I looked outside for about 15 seconds, and he goes, now look at me. And I looked at him and goes, what'd you see? I go, well, I saw the ticket booth over there. I saw the big sign here. I saw, I think, the naked cowboy down there. He goes, you didn't see anything. I want you to look at the same place, but break it up into 6 frames, 3 on top and 3 on bottom, and look out. So I looked out, same amount of time, 15 seconds. And then I looked at Peter and I go, I see it all now. You have to see the world in all these frames so you could really absorb it. And then he goes, the smartest people on the planet look at these frames. And he goes, when Bobby Kennedy was shot, the world went in mourning, except for those really smart people going, hey, we can't bring him back to life. How do we benefit from this? How do we work with what just happened? So many of us during Corona went, oh my God, it's like Bobby Kennedy shot. This is horrible. This sucks. But as we know, Apple and HP were all built during a recession. How do you look at today's times of Corona as an opportunity?
I don't know if you were about to start, Vint. So, chaos and disruption are the alarm clocks of entrepreneurs and innovators, right? And I don't want to say this in any disrespect to the bad part of COVID, but there's nothing better than waking up in the morning to a world in chaos, because that means the world needs us, right? So innovators live for disruption in this time. So this was the time to say, here's a great example. What's the future of school? Because we found out how, not like we didn't already intellectually understand the 100-year-old paradigm or whatever that a lot of education was built on, but we really saw the cracks in the dam when COVID happened. And we found out how poorly designed and antiquated so much of our educational system is. And we were forced to try to figure out how to educate people around that. And so what that said was, there was a big, giant, flashing neon sign that said, I agree with what Vince said, these things aren't new, we just accelerated them. We accelerated paths like the one you said about that book about everybody, Here Comes Everybody. We're just accelerating this evolutionary path we were on anyway. That's what COVID did. We needed to ask the question of what's the future of education, and we needed to really get to work on the next version of it, and then we were suddenly forced to, because everybody was sent home and education was broken everywhere. And students, I like this actually. Vin earlier talked about discontent. Students had a chance to express their discontent. This is stupid. Online school is stupid. Going back to school is stupid. And so the good part about that is asking them, then what's your idea? That's why I told you we're building this new youth problem-solving network globally. Asking kids, how would you redesign school then? Instead of just letting educators do it, kids should be at the table. We need to hear their ideas. So I think that this question, let's just pick 3 industries. The whole education industry now has ripe for more disruption and more redesign, and skipping over a bunch of steps in the middle and just going right to a better way to educate. I don't know what the answer is, but I love the fact that I don't know what the answer is, because there's so much thinking and creating and collaborating and masterminding to do for this. Similarly, we already talked about work from home. What's the future of work? The millennials already didn't like work the way that we handed it to them. They didn't want to commit their career to you. They didn't want to be in office all day. And they didn't want a job that focused on titles more than it focused on experiences. And they care about getting paid, but they also care about fulfillment and impact. So the future of work, we needed to solve it anyway, and now we have no choice. Millions of people out of work and millions of businesses shut down, and everybody's saying, what now? And similarly, I'll just throw a third one out there, medicine. We've been talking about telemedicine forever and doing nothing about it. How do we get better healthcare to people where they are using technology? We weren't really doing much. That's my editorial opinion. And suddenly we were forced to, because we couldn't get to people anyway. My own doctor called me and he said, oh my God, I just did my first Zoom patient call ever. And not only was it way more efficient, because the person would have wasted their time and mine coming down here, and I get paid the same per appointment, but that would have taken an hour and 20 minutes. And I did this in 6 minutes talking to the person on Zoom. He said, but my patient base used to be limited to only people who could drive to my office. And now I can take calls from people anywhere in my expertise, in my field of clinical expertise, and see if I can help them. So as a doctor, he felt like he could make more impact, and as a business person, he could get more customers. So I think that we've accelerated a necessary evolution, and I can't imagine anything more exciting. And we wake up in the morning and the world's in chaos, and you say, okay, what do I make out of this? That's what everybody on this call should be living for. That's the innovator's alarm clock. I think maybe if I ever write another book, I'm going to call it the innovator's alarm clock.
On the edge of chaos lies opportunity. And I think you picked several of the very important spotlights that have highlighted things that are broken. The one other thing I would add to this is supply chains have been totally broken by the pandemic, and we have to rethink what those mean in order to be prepared for the next one, and because there will be another one.
Absolutely. So many pieces of supply chain that got shut down, but we still need to get certain products to people, to certain people. And so people were forced to say, you know, it's like what Ken said. You could say, oh, woe is me. Or you could say, wait a minute, there might be a better way that suddenly, now that I'm shut down, I have a few minutes to actually think about my business. I've told a lot of small business owners, right? You've been so busy, you've never had a chance to think about your business, right? You just do it all day. And now you can sit back and take a meta view of your own activities, your own time and motion study, and your own structure, right? How do you run this business? And this is your chance to completely reboot. And so people should see this as an opportunity. Same thing with reskilling, right? Or I've been saying retooling. I've been telling everybody I meet, you should commit during this pandemic to developing one new skill you didn't have before the pandemic. You know why? Because you can take free courses and all kinds of education online. Commit an hour a day to learn something new. So by the time this pandemic ends, you are the next version of yourself at a much faster pace. Nobody should come out of this the same or worse than they were as a human being. This is an evolutionary opportunity, and we have the time and the access to take advantage of it. So it would be a shame for anybody that doesn't do that right now.
So Jeff, will you be on the call when Vint does his full 1 hour talk with us?
Of course, you know I will. I can't wait to hear it.
Locking that in. Come on, Mr. Surf, we got to get you here. We're still kind of fascinated about that statement you said that light was too slow. That still resonates with all of us when you said that. But Jeff and Vince Surf, thanks a lot for hanging out with us. Jeff, if people want to hunt you down, where do they go?
By the way, I wanted to say that anyway, because some people sent me private messages in the chat, but I was trying to make sure I was present here. So I didn't read them. And when we log off, they'll disappear. So my email is just jeff@jeffhoffman.com. That's the easiest place. Our other, all of our, I think I mentioned last time, the various addresses of our philanthropic efforts. But for the metal group, and please feel free to just reach out directly at jeff@jeffhoffman.com. And I'd love to continue some of these conversations. And if you did send me a private message, I apologize that I did not, leave this meeting to read those. So please resend them on email.
Everyone, please unmute your mics and thank both of these fine gentlemen for sharing time with us. Everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you guys so much.
Jeff.
Bye, everyone.
Appreciate your
Bye.
time.